Beam me aboard. Energize.
Energizing.
Kirk to transporter room. Report.
You're listening to Transporter Room 3 with your hosts, Phil Perello and Scott Calora.
Welcome back, dear listeners, to another excellent installment of Transporter Room 3. I am your co-host, Phil Perello.
And I'm Scott Calora, the other co-host. This is our season finale, isn't it?
Yes, this is the finale of Season 2.
Season 2 of Transporter Room 3. Whoever thought it would make it this far?
That's right, and to go out on a high note, clip show, bitches!
I stepped on some
grayness.
We both stepped on something thorny in a crappy-looking lake on a fake planet.
Wait, is that how that starts? I don't think I've ever seen the opening of that.
I think Riker beams down to a planet and basically steps in a mud puddle and stubs his toe, and that his body gets infected with something or other, which causes clip showitis.
Yeah, his body gets infected with flashbacks and editing tricks and budget-saving maneuvers.
And it's not like they could even flash back to Yesterday's Enterprise or Best of Both Worlds.
No,
or
it's
Family
to like the lame-ass ones.
Yeah, it's all. This is the end of the second season. There wasn't anything good to flash back to.
I as a big like punk, they should have done a clip show for All Good Things.
That would have been crazy, man.
Yeah, that can you just imagine, like, the teaser is exactly how it plays out, I'm moving back and forth through time, credits roll, and then Picard's just sitting at the fucking table the entire episode with Troy. So, well, what do you see? Where are you going? Well, do you remember that time this happened? Or how about that? Or how about this? Then they realize he's just crazy.
Maybe he's pulling out those glittery photo albums from Star Trek Generations that we found out he has.
So young.
It's burned in the fire.
Yeah, sweet rainbow bright 24th century Polaroids.
Let's get personal real quick with you, Phil. Two things. Because before we forget, this is true.
I have a unique location. These last few podcasts, I seem to go a little outside the box. Well, now the box is a fucking dot to me right now. I am so outside it. For reasons out of my control, ladies and germs, mostly germs, I am podcasting from the inside of my aunt's van. In the parking lot of a cafe back east. The thing is, the cafe I was in, for full disclosure, me and Skype weren't getting along in there. It was blocked for some reason. So now I'm pirating cafe internet from someplace else in a parking lot of a cafe that's closed.
I love that it's a van. I picture it being a 1970s van, like airbrushed, like it's got like
it's a 2001 Chrysler grocery getter.
Okay.
It's got wood trim on the paneling. It's like that really curvy shuttle from seasons 1, 2, and 3. Next Gen.
Right.
It's very much like the shuttle that penetrated the Borg cube force field, and that, my friends, is why I'm such a nerd. I just compared my aunt's van that I'm currently podcasting in to a scene from an episode of Star Trek. I don't know if you heard that, but my masculinity just like out and slammed the car door. It's stomping off like some angry hooker right now.
Oh man, yeah.
So,
I almost forgot for a second there that not only you're in the van, but you're in the van comparing the van to a Star Trek spaceship, but you're also podcasting about Star Trek from a van.
Yeah, I can't get nerdier than that. Hey Scott.
Yeah.
Police car just pulled up to the van.
Oh shit. Okay.
Yeah, they're getting out of the car. Can I let me Skype you back in a
do what you gotta do, man. And we're back. Did you everything go okay there, Phil?
Yeah, everything's hunky dory. Just got a visit from the constable.
Did they,
This feel,
did he have a collar or no collar?
no, he had a belt and a bucket.
No, it's so preposterous, right? When we were laughing about how ridiculous it was that you were podcasting from your aunt's van.
Let that be a lesson, kids. If you're going to nerd out, do it within the confines of a Wi-Fi provided home.
This is why generations of nerds have hid in the dark, dank basements of their mothers.
For sure,
right?
for sure, it has to be. That's the only.
You go out and about and you get punished for it. So, all right. So there was another thing that I wanted you to touch on real quick, which was last time we podcasted. It was your birthday, and your girlfriend had a big surprise planned for you, which was apparently going to be a Star Trek thing.
Star Trek themed. I thought she was going to take me to someone's bridge that they're trying to reconstruct from the Enterprise D, but it was kind of better. She took me to the Disney Ranch in northern Los Angeles, and
awesome.
Took me on a tour of some of the locations there where they shot various episodes of Star Trek.
That's so cool.
Yeah, it was really cool. I saw the giant field where Molly goes disappearing in that Star Trek episode we were talking about last time.
That episode's getting a lot of play with us.
We've talked about it more. The last time we talked about this much was in the writer's room when it was made.
I don't think they talked about it as much.
No.
Judging by the way it turned out.
And that's also the field where the opening of Silicon Avatar from season 5 of next.
Oh, right.
Where Riker hits on that chick and gets
how Riker got his groove back.
Yeah. It was just really damn cool. And I also think it's, I could be wrong, but I also think it's where they shot Insurrection there as well. But I think it's where they shot that scene when Picard rides up to Shatner in Generations and does the whole,
oh, right.
Come back with me.
Right.
So that was fun. So it was a good birthday.
Did you also go to Starfleet headquarters?
Oh, that's right. My birthday celebration blew over. Yes, she took me to Starfleet headquarters from the first duty as well, which was really cool. And then we went to a location. It's a public gardens where they shot Cupid. Yeah.
Okay.
So it was a good time.
Right.
Thank you for remembering.
That's great,
yeah,
man.
it was lots of fun.
Wow. You folks who live out in California, this is what you can do with your big city cell phones and technology and whatnot.
Scott, you say this like you're calling from like 1986. like they just canceled Tic-Tac-Dough. You're really angry.
Them their cell phones, they have antennas on them?
Back in my day.
Okay, so moving on, there, aside from vans and Tic-Tac-Dough, there was some other Star Trek stuff going on the past week, right?
Yes.
The Star Trek 9-minute prologue hit theaters. Another trailer hit theaters. And lots of speculation and interviews and stuff on the web. So why don't we just dive right into it? Well, what did you think of the 9-minute? You went to see the 9 minutes in IMAX in the theater.
I did.
Right?
As I said on the last podcast, I paid for my ticket, watched the 9 minutes, and left before The Hobbit started. Very, very proud of that. And I got a refund.
So you went, and that was the midnight screening, right?
Midnight screening.
Okay. So you were a little more zealous than I was.
Yes, that's true.
I was planning on going to the midnight screening, and I never got my ass off the couch.
Or Scott.
And I never wound up going. I just went today, actually. I went to an earlier screening during the day. And I did the same thing you did. I went in, I bought my ticket, I watched it. I watched about 15 minutes of The Hobbit before I couldn't take any more
Was
of it.
that bad, huh?
Well, I don't know. I guess it's just not my thing. It was like, I don't know. None of what I saw seemed to be from the actual book, The Hobbit. So I was just getting a little annoyed, and I didn't plan on staying anyway, so then I left. I did not ask for a refund though. I didn't have the balls to ask for a refund.
I'll show you how it's done, sir. So I enjoyed everything up until we see Kirk and them running on that planet.
Okay.
Which
So I guess we should say spoilers.
spoilers.
Obviously.
For those who haven't
Yeah.
seen it, you should probably stop listening now. For those who have, prepare to fire all your hate mail at me. No,
So you like the stuff in London in the hospital with the guy from Doctor Who?
yeah, I think it's a movie called Star Trek opens with an alarm clock going off and a couple waking. That's a brilliant TV-esque misdirect.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I really dug it.
Yeah. I like that stuff a lot as well.
I will. I have to point out an inaccuracy on Trek movie though. They said that this movie opens with the exact same bridge sounds playing over the studio logos that Star Trek 2009 did. That's not true. Star Trek 2009 opened with an overture of Giacchino's score.
Okay.
And then as the music crescendoed, it cut to the Kelvin roaring overhead with the beep 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 sounds going on.
Right.
Those are the sounds that open the footage in Star Trek Into Darkness. So, if you want the most accurate Star Trek discussions, listen to our podcast.
Okay.
Anyway, I am such a petulant nerd.
Well, yeah, I that was maybe my favorite. I don't know. Well, I don't know if that was my favorite part or not. I liked the whole thing. I liked the whole 9 minutes.
I love how it ended on a great cliffhanger.
Yeah, I was surprised by that. Foolishly enough, I actually thought I was going to get a resolution to the scene and find out what happened to Spock in the big volcano. I don't know what I was thinking, but I just thought it was definitely Abrams' Trek. Very high energy and kind
fast.
of.
Maybe I felt it was a little too fast.
Yeah.
Some of the stuff with the shuttle, like Sulu and Uhura in the shuttle, a lot of when they cut to exteriors of the shuttle, I don't know. It was too hard to make out what was going on.
Yeah, I know what you mean, and it also seemed like it's like, oh, okay, they're jettisoning. They just let Spock go, now they're jettisoning the shuttle already.
Right.
Seemed quite extreme, and those wetsuits they had on were awful, don't you
A
think?
little bit. And
not Zoe Saldana's, but the other guys.
Her wetsuit's different from everyone's.
Yeah.
Instead of like gray with like their rank color like striping the sides, hers was full red with gray stripes.
She's wearing she's wearing the hot chick wetsuit.
Right.
Whereas the other guys are wearing the make me look as dorky as possible wetsuits. And I noted on our Facebook page that Chris Pines already appears to be putting on the Shatner pounds. It seemed like he needed a girdle when he was in that wetsuit.
He had a bit of a belly. But maybe less cosmetic critiques and more like overall, like Scott, you really like the footage, and this is the first we've talked about it. So what got you so sold?
Well, I really liked it. I liked it a lot. I wouldn't say I was in love with it, but I liked this London stuff a lot. I liked the setup with the villain. I like the fact that you're bringing in these other characters. I can't remember the guy's name. Noel Clark, right. I think. The guy he was a companion on Doctor Who. So he's the dad whose daughter is sick, and he's obviously he's going to somehow wind up working with Benedict Cumberbatch's character he wants to save his daughter, right? So he's somehow gonna let him into Starfleet somehow, or give him access to Starfleet in some capacity. Because in the trailer you had pointed out Clark's character is dropping a Starfleet ring into a glass of water at one point, right? So he's apparently ex-Starfleet or somehow aligned with Starfleet. So I like the setup with the way they introduced the villain. I like that that we're getting these other characters, namely Noel Clark, whatever his name is. I like when they bring in interesting other characters, not generic Starfleet admirals, like schmucks, like who we were talking about last episode. This guy feels like a real character who has a real dilemma. His daughter's dying, and it's also interesting in the 23rd century world, which is usually portrayed as being so perfect, that you can still have little kids who are dying of illnesses, right?
Right.
I don't know if it was ever addressed or not, but I always kind of figured cancer was cured in the 23rd century.
It looked like,
right?
yeah, it looked like she was suffering from some sort of premature aging.
Is that? Oh yeah, that's what the word has been, right?
Yeah.
Did she look that way to you? She just looked to me like she was missing some hair.
She looked like she was missing some hair, and her face looked a little wrinkly, and she just looked a little older. Maybe
Okay.
I went into that with that theory going around that it's a de-aging thing and it has ties to Robert April. Maybe Robert April is the true villain.
Right.
That Cumberbatch plays. I went into that, and maybe I made some connections based on that, but I thought that's what I saw.
Okay, I didn't pick up on that, but I might have just missed it. Right. So you're talking about, there was a theory on Hit Fix or whatever they're called,
Right.
that they were talking about, because they attended the event that was held at Bad Robot last week,
Right.
where they were showing a bunch of production materials from the film, and they interviewed the cast and stuff, and basically they were kind of speculating that it could possibly be Robert April, who was the first captain of the Enterprise according to Star Trek the animated series canon, I guess. He was I think it was the name that was used in the first pilot script, but it was eventually changed to Captain Pike. So the idea that it could be him, perhaps, and that it's involving something with being able to reverse the aging process, which ties into the animated series episode that he was in, which seems like a stretch, because why would they pay so much attention to such an obscure part of canon? I don't know, but who knows? It could be. I think it's, what I was thinking. I saw, and this, I don't know if this sounds weird for me to say out loud or not, but I saw an Indian woman married, who's the mother of the child, right? And the child seemed to be perhaps half Indian as well. That's what it seemed to me. And Khan was a Sikh, right?
I think he was.
An Indian?
I think so.
Right? So I was wondering if this is something somehow related to, and there's this whole thing about what would you do for your family and all the rest of it, right? So I was wondering if somehow this family is somehow connected to Khan on some level. And further, I was thinking that perhaps, and this, I guess, is kind of, a lot of people have thought this, that maybe this guy who Cumberbatch is playing is not Khan, but is one of Khan's disciples. Another guy who was frozen along with Khan, perhaps, or maybe just someone who lived through the eugenics wars and somehow still alive. There's a million and one theories out there. That's what it comes down to.
Right. It comes down to which one do you believe, right?
Right. Which one do you believe today?
Right.
There is, in the trailer, there is the image of what looks to be cryogenic freezing chambers, which would be a Khan thing.
It has to be a Khan thing.
Right, you would think.
Either,
but then
or
again,
it's just a misdirect on purpose, so that.
Or it's a misdirect, yeah. But to get back to the footage, I thought that the stuff with them on the planet, and Kirk and Bones making a run for it, and Spock in the volcano and all the rest of it, I enjoyed it. I thought it was fun and pretty exciting and cool to look at, even if it didn't actually make all that much sense. Wouldn't they have been killed if they jumped from that height, from they jump off that cliff into the water?
And I just, later, I read, some stuff later that the crew of the Enterprise is still a bit rough around the edges. They are not the seasoned crew yet.
Right.
And for some reason that bothered me a little. when I was watching the footage, I had one reaction. And after I read, that they're not supposed to be a tight group yet, I kind of revised my opinion a bit. But the movie opens, for me, first reaction, the movie opens with Kirk pulling an Indiana Jones running away from natives that he's pissed off by taking a scroll, right? And
Is that what it was? Because I could see everything was happening so fast, I couldn't even.
Yeah,
he took
a scroll.
Okay.
And I'm watching this going, because it was hard for me to understand some of the dialogue in the theater I was sitting. So I'm thinking, so they're on this mission to go in stealth and undercover. So then why is Kirk taking us?
Right. Yeah. It doesn't add up.
Later, and I later read that it was because he was trying to draw the natives away from where Spock was going to defuse the volcano.
Right. Okay.
Now,
yeah.
Okay, that's fine. I get that. But isn't there something better you could have thought of before, like, to not expose yourself?
Right.
I mean, that's just porous to me type of storytelling, and
yeah, it's true.
And it also, for me, this might be completely nitpicky, I don't know, but Kirk's a hero. He should act like one. And to see Kirk running around looking like he's on some sidequel to The Hangover, I felt like I was watching a frat boy in uniform running away from a prank that went bad. And that's just not Kirk.
Right.
That's, and again, maybe it's just me, maybe because I've made my own sequel in my head, as we all have. I mean, we it's true. Like, as soon as 2009 ended, most of us probably spiraled to various degrees of where the next one could go. And, the Kirk who said "buckle up" is the Kirk that I'm seeing in this movie, and I wanted to see a more, grounded Kirk. Commander.
Yeah.
It's more interesting to me to see Kirk at the top of his game and then get knocked down a peg or two, or almost at the top of this game, as opposed to, why would anyone follow him? The Kirk I'm watching in those 9 minutes is not a Kirk I want to follow.
Yeah.
And but later, I mean, he stole the scroll so that he could, quote unquote, save these people from running away. But if you take that little story nugget and you give it a shake, stuff's pouring out of it.
Yeah.
And I can't say that, if they were trying to ape Raiders of the Lost Ark, you can take the opening of Raiders, give that a really good hard shake, and nothing falls out of that. Because that sets up your hero. Like, he's a gravitational force, Indiana Jones, in that opening. He's not doing anything callous or at risk to anyone other than himself and maybe the guide. And there's a bit of a mystery to it all. It's like all they did was, let's just do Indy running away from a boulder, but let's put Kirk and McCoy in the Indy role and change the boulder to chalk-faced extras. Well, maybe I'm just being too harsh, Scott. I mean,
I think they're trying to set up the immature, brash Kirk in a quick sequence, right? So he can then go and get bawled out by Pike or whoever and start his journey towards maturity or whatever. But I hear what you're saying.
Am I wrong?
No, I hear what you're saying. I think also, I think you and I approach the new Abrams movies differently, and so you go into it with the highest of hopes, and I go into them with
the lowest.
The lowest. Yeah, I have such little expectation for these things. I expect them to really not be too smart and not really do anything that interesting. Right. That I guess maybe our reactions can be a little polarized because you wind up being disappointed, and I wind up being kind of like, oh, okay, I didn't hate that, So I think that might be part of it.
That's fair. I guess because it was like hyped up and I've been anticipating it for 4 years, it's like the best you can do is hiding the ship underwater.
Now this is also kind of their first, like the first real footage that they're showing us, right? Not including the trailer. So um, if this is the best that they have to offer.
And it's just, again, I mean, and I'm only drawing this parallel because the filmmakers themselves have. Uh, they've said for years, they're following The Dark Knight as a template. And they're
Right.
clearly trying to follow Nolan's path with this IMAX preview, because this is what he's done for the last two Batman movies. But this is why Nolan is more effective in that realm than Abrams. The two things he showed, I mean, if Abrams' 9 minutes follows the same format as what Nolan did. You show a good chunk of footage, and you wrap it up with a flash cut montage of 30 seconds of footage, and you slap the titles.
Right.
Same thing happened here. Only, our boy Nolan, he took his prologues to.
Well, your boy.
My boy. He took his prologues to establish the villain, and as we know, and as the writers of the film have recently said, sequels are all about your villain, setting who your villain is, and they can look at that all they want, Team Abrams, but they did two things. They set up their villain in a minute and a half, and then had to reestablish the heroes.
Mm-hmm.
And I think for me, that's it's neither harm nor foul. Like it doesn't engender me to it, and it doesn't like completely have me on the hate wagon for it. But
right.
But if they just devoted some time to Cumberbatch, I don't know, man. I mean, say what you will about like the opening of Dark Knight Rises, but I think that conversation was a bit more excited than, and a bit more. And I think the source material was a bit more concrete. Like I'd rather spend all that time with Cumberbatch and that family and seeing what he was going to do, than watch my crew run around on a planet to get to their underwater ship in what felt like really expensive fan fiction brought to life.
And that's probably, I mean, that's kind of the extent of what you're going to get in the Abrams movies in terms of exploring strange new worlds, by the way. Right. Which wasn't really even much of it exploring. It was, they were there to save this planet from this giant volcano or something, right? Which they make it a point to talk about the Prime Directive, and how they can't violate the Prime Directive, blah, blah, blah. But my question to you is, weren't they violating the Prime Directive by even trying to save these people from being
exactly
killed?
That was,
because I always like to cite that old Next Generation episode with the one with Paul Sorvino, when he plays Worf's brother, and the Next Generation team, Picard and everyone, they stand on the bridge and watch a planet kill itself. A planet is being destroyed by a natural disaster is occurring. Basically, I think the atmosphere on this world is like leaking out into space or something. And they stand on the bridge. Picard makes a speech about how there's times like this, it's tough to follow the Prime Directive, but we've sworn an oath, blah, blah, blah. And they stand there and watch this whole planet kill itself, and the primitive race on the planet all presumably all die, right, with the exception of the people who Paul Sorvino beams off, which is what the episode's about. But that's beside the point. But the point is, Picard, the way the Prime Directive is being interpreted there, is if the planet is killing itself, the planet's killing itself, and you let the planet kill itself.
Right.
And that's not what's happening in this. In this, they're going out of their way to change the course of this planet's history by preventing this extinction event from taking place.
Right, and I guess I'm just confused, like, was Kirk, what Starfleet order was he operating on that would send him to a world outside the Federation's jurisdiction? Like, was he just doing a Kirk thing? Was that like a call he made? Like, did he disobey orders to go save this world anyway?
Right,
I mean, if that's, I mean, with Kirk being a hothead and a rebel and a maverick, to put him in the driver's seat of a starship, that's kind of I like that little wrinkle. If he's using the Enterprise to do what the fuck he wants to explore strange new worlds his way.
I don't think that's what's going
Oh,
on.
damn it.
But I don't know. Who knows? We'll see. Maybe they haven't. I wouldn't be surprised if it's not even addressed whether it was an actual mission that he needed to undertake or not, or if he just stumbled upon it or what have you. But you know what I didn't care for, which brought me out of it, was when Spock starts talking about the needs of the many outweigh the needs of the one.
Pretty early to throw.
It's so early in it. I mean, so early in the movie. It's like 5 minutes into the movie, and it's also so early in the lifetime of this character. And I mean that's a theme that wouldn't come up until Star Trek 2, which is like these guys are like practically in their golden years in Star Trek 2, right? Like I don't know. It just feels like that line, and we'll see how it plays out in the movie. I mean, obviously the trailer has the thing with the hands up against the plexiglass and all the rest of it, but it just seems to me like that line indicates something that I've always been afraid that these guys were going to do, Abrams and his people, which is just take this vampiric approach to Star Trek, which is suck all the good stuff out of it and recycle it and bright and shiny new coat, and that's what that sort of feels like to me. Like, do you really need to go there again with that? Like, it was great, it's an awesome aspect of the original movies, but like, really, like, you only made one movie so far and you're already falling back on that. Like, that I didn't care for that, so and when we actually see the movie when it comes out next year, and you're not in the midst of a big action scene involving exploding volcanoes or whatnot, I think the question then is, what's keeping you interested in the non-action scenes and non-flashy scenes?
Right.
Hopefully it's going to be more stuff like the setup in the London scene, and it's not, because that feels fresh to me, and not, it doesn't feel like they're recycling anything.
Right. No, that also feels fresh to me. And Scott, I think you brought up a very brilliant point, man, in terms of the needs of the mending line. I never even thought that that's why it's blowing my mind right now, that it that's a realization and a phrase that we're used to our characters for saying later in life. And right. I think you're right. I think it feels less earned in retrospect. And at the same time, yeah. I'm pretty sure it was set. My gut tells me that is going to be a theme that they're going to carry over from Wrath of Khan.
Yeah,
and that's sure. and thematically, that is a beautiful, succinct way to communicate your theme. And if that's the struggle Kirk's going to be facing, throughout again in the Abramsverse, I am all on board with that, because I loved it so much in Wrath of Khan. They may not be able to do it better, but I don't think that they're going to do it completely worse. You know what I mean? Because it sounds like, I mean, my hope is that this mission, in the new trailer, Pike tells Kirk, that you think that you can't do wrong, or you think you're unstoppable or whatever, but there's going to come a time where you're going to be wrong about that, and everyone under your command is going to get killed.
Right. And
I'm paraphrasing poorly there, but I can see. My hope is that somehow comes in the wake of whatever's going on Earth / wherever Kirk was coming from on that volcano planet. Which, am I correct to say that the name of that planet is the same planet that's tied to like the End of the World 2012 thing?
I didn't pick up on that.
I think it's like I think it's like a planet that's like floating. Like it's. I know I read a theory out there that it could like drift into Earth's orbit, blot out the sun.
And is that it's a real planet?
I think it is a real planet, and I think I think Star Trek was saying that was the planet.
Where'd you read that?
I didn't read I just read like Planet Nibiru or whatever it is. And
okay. I'm looking it up here, but I'm not finding anything.
Yeah, the Nibiru cataclysm.
Okay.
Um, uh, that is, yeah. It's a supposed disaster encounter between the Earth and a large planetary object, which certain groups believe will take place in the early 21st century.
Interesting.
Yeah. I
Ah.
think that was from Star Trek Into Darkness.
Okay. Well, that's so you're talking about the Mayan doomsday prophecy that's supposed to happen this week.
Right, and it is Class M planet Nibiru, is
Okay.
that the opening 9 minutes takes place.
Interesting. So maybe it'll hit us, and we'll be spared having to go see Star Trek Into Darkness.
I enjoyed the new trailer more than the 9 minutes.
Yeah. Well,
Especially that shot of Enterprise looking very, very damaged. Fucked up. I mean that the deflector dish has like a chunk missing out of it, and the saucer section looks badly scarred. And I love it when my Enterprise gets hurt.
well, they can make anything look good in the trailer, though. We've said this before. So, the trailer looked cool. The teaser trailer looked cool. But what it all adds up to certainly remains to be seen. Did you enjoy the IMAX presentation?
I did, actually. It was. I had a lot of fun seeing the Enterprise rendered for IMAX. That was cool to me. That was impressive to me. I noticed, the aspect ratio changed once in a while. It
really?
flipped like the stuff on the bridge was not in IMAX.
Oh, I didn't notice that.
But the stuff, it was much more subtle than the Nolan stuff.
Okay.
But it was the stuff in the volcano was full IMAX. The stuff on the bridge, I believe, was not.
But what was it? Was it projected in? It wasn't being played in the full IMAX, right?
No, it was projected in IMAX.
Okay. Yeah. So, which I saw it in IMAX anyway, so it doesn't matter to me. But they kept that. Paramount managed to keep that pretty quiet. The fact that the footage was not ready to be seen, to be shown in full IMAX, as I understand it. So even the people who went to a real IMAX theater were basically getting LIMAX.
Yep,
right?
They were getting LIMAXed.
Yeah, paying full price for it.
But so final thoughts on the footage, Scott?
It made me excited to see the movie in a way that I wasn't beforehand, which I think again speaks to my general kind of inclination to not expect much from these guys. So we'll see.
You're so cold, Scott. You're so. Yeah.
Now just Damon Lindelof, just follow me on Twitter, and then I'll say nice things about you.
Fair enough. Yeah, man.
What about you?
I think like having this discussion has been really helpful for me because I've been dying to talk about like the last week.
This is a cathartic experience.
A little bit, and as some of the listeners know, I've mentioned before that I write a lot, and it's tricky to watch this and see like story choices go on that. I see some things on screen. I'm like, oh, I wonder if it got there in the same way that some of my stuff gets there, which is just because I want to fucking do it.
Right.
And the Enterprise being underwater reeks of like, let's just do it.
Yeah.
And it's fun that Scotty comes in and says and like calls it out. Ridiculous it is. It's interfecting with the systems, and they cut them right off. All you need is just that little, preamble. You just need to draw some little bit of attention to some grounded plot reason for why it's not working.
Yeah.
And and then you just off to the races. But it makes no sense for the Enterprise to be down there. So the transporter is not working because of magnetic stuff. But you.
So they were, which we noted earlier, they were already falling back on technobabble reasoning.
You can beam people falling in midair. You can beam people from Saturn's moon to Earth, but you can't beam one goddamn Vulcan out of a volcano. Maybe Chekhov can do it because he's the one who beamed the people out of midair. Because you have two transporter room geniuses on board the Enterprise, Chekhov and Scotty.
Yeah, but first he has to run. He has to make a madcap run down the hallway to the transporter controls in order to do it.
Right.
So, well, this podcast went from quite a rip roaring affair early on to really turning into a bit of a downer. I think. I feel that we're ending season 2 of Transporter Room 3 on a real sour note all of a sudden.
Yeah, I feel kind of bad. This is like if Kirk was on HBO. This is how it would end. But let's cheer everyone up, shall we? Let's do a red shirt real quick.
Okay.
We take this time to remember those who have laid their lives down for Starfleet. This is the red shirt of the week.
Who's it going to be?
I'm going with the Gary Mitchell 12.
I forgot that that's who we decided on. I was thinking we were talking about the guy in the trailer. The Gary Mitchell 12. Who are the Gary Mitchell 12, Phil?
Those are the 12 people. I believe 9 died on the bridge during the Galactic Barrier incident, and 3 died off screen on Delta Vega.
We were going to call him we were going to call him the Delta Vega 12, and then we were going to call him the Galactic Barrier 12.
12 sounds so much better.
Yeah, I think so. So 9 of them died during the actual storm, and then Kelso gets strangled by Mitchell.
That's one of them, and then 2 more die off screen.
And then 2 die off. Oh, okay. See, we're not including Mitchell or Denner in that.
Oh no! They are non-red shirts, sir. So that would make it the Gary Mitchell 14.
Okay, the Gary Mitchell 12 had to go looking for what were they looking for? What was the ship? The Valiant or something?
That's right.
The Valiant, yeah. 12 souls, and several of whom had did all of them have latent telepathic abilities?
Well, if they did, I would hope they would have pushed away the kill shot that took. But all 12 of them did get a bottle of Saurian brandy poured out for them in their respect. So that is our final red shirt of the week for 2012. Thank you. That's it. Scott, thank you for podcasting with me.
Thank you, sir. Everyone listening, please have a great holiday season. We're going to go on a little hiatus for a few weeks, which isn't too different from our usual hiatuses, with non-holiday hiatuses.
This one actually is grounded in a believableness.
Right. Guilt-free. We wouldn't have to feel guilty about it. But we'll be back in early January to continue with season 3 of Transport Room 3.
And until then, we'll see you on Gravette Island.